severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm simply here to apologize. So what we came across that day was obviously unplanned, and the reactions you saw on tape were raw, they were unfiltered. None of us knew how to react.
I'm your host, Killer
Should put the cameras down.
Into the news.
There's a lot of things I should have done differently, but I didn't.
Hey fellas! So I finally saw A Quiet Place last night and I liked it. It's a good movie, directing work is great, acting is just right, and the whole thing goes by really fast. Plus, of course, let us not forget the fantastic score by Marco Beltrami. The movie has so little, yet it manages to do so much, which is very respectable. In short, Jim from The Office, you did a fine job. That said, there has been some talk around the internet naming A Quiet Place as one of the scariest horror movies ever made. And with that, I kinda have to disagree with, at least you know me personally. This because I just didn't find it particularly scary. It does have great, masterfully created moments of extreme tension, but I never found it scary. Honestly, I wouldn't call A Quiet Place a horror movie as much as I would call it a thriller. It could have been a horror movie and it almost was, but it wasn't, not for me at least. And the reason for this is one single scene. Now, Filmento, what the heck are you on about exactly? Well, thank you for asking, my dearest viewer. There is a moment at the beginning of this movie, or better yet a choice made by the filmmakers which I thought was a big mistake. One single choice that, at least for me, reduced the level of fear of A Quiet Place by 83% or 84% or 80 whatever. Let's just say that because of this one choice, the movie is a lot less scary than it could/should have been. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So, let's go. Before we go into the actual scene I'm talking about, let's briefly discuss what makes a movie scary. What exactly is the most effective type of fear a fictional movie can utilize? Obviously, this is a topic that could fill its own entire full-length video, but luckily, as always, I of course have the correct answer. And the answer is fear of the unknown. You can make your monster as scary as you want. You can make it the most hideous, most lethal, most terrifying creature ever created in history of mankind. And it doesn't matter. Because no matter what you do, that monster is never going to be as scary as the human imagination. This is why masks are scary, why darkness is scary, why faceless watching figures are scary. It's the knowledge of something being there coupled with the uncertainty of what it is exactly. Fear of the unknown. Let's take a look at one of my own personal scariest horror movies ever made. The first half of It Follows. What to me makes the first half of It Follows so effective is the fact that it's practically built around the fear of the unknown. The monster here is a physical embodiment of just that. We don't know what it does, we don't know why it does, we don't know how it does. We don't even know what it actually looks like. All we do know is that it's somewhere out there and that it's not going to stop until it gets you. I say the first half of It Follows because that's how long I think that movie manages to stay scary. The moment we get to the beach scene, it's all downhill from there. This because in this said beach scene, we finally get to see the creature in action. After all this unending feeling of terror and dread, the big bad monster finally shows what horrors it can unleash upon you. It lifts up your hair and it punches people. That's it. And just like that, fear of the unknown is broken, as is the fear of the actual movie itself.
Oh my god, it's right there. It's somewhere there. It's walking there. Oh my god, it's walking there. Oh, it threw it. It threw it at her. Oh my goodness. Oh, not the chair, not the chair. Oh my god, oh my god. threw a chair at her. Oh, not the typewriter. Oh my god, oh my god. Not the toaster, oh my god. Not the hairdryer, oh my god. No, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this anymore.
Now that we've established fear of the unknown a bit better, let's get back to A Quiet Place. I told you there's a moment in this film that makes it a lot less scary than it could have been, very much like the beach scene in It Follows. But unlike in It Follows, this moment doesn't take place in the middle of the film, nor does it take place at the end. No, the moment that I'm talking about takes place at the very beginning, and it's this. Alright, now I know what you're thinking. That moment is amazing, the entire scene is amazing, both visually and story-wise. And you'd be right, absolutely right. And I agree, the scene is very much great. But while I don't have a problem with the scene itself, I do have a problem with a specific part of it. This one single shot. Let's do a little pop quiz. Keeping in mind what we've talked about here today, look at this frame and tell me what you think might be wrong with it. And of course remember that we're only a few minutes into this film. What do you think? Anything? Yes, that's correct. We see the monster. It's right there, fully visible in broad daylight. Not only do we now know what it looks like, we also know what it does. It stabs you. And just like that, because of this one single shot alone, fear of the unknown is gone. And now that it's gone, it never comes back. Am I being harsh? Maybe. But if I am, that's because this would have been such an easy weakness to plug. Make the scene take place in the dark. Use something to naturally obscure the audience's vision. Hell, even by cutting off this one single shot, the issue would be gone and the scene would still work just the same. The main purpose of this scene is that the family loses their smallest child to this lethal monster. That's it. You don't have to actually show us the monster to accomplish that. See? Much better. If you're making a supernatural monster horror movie, it would always be wise to keep your cards close to the chest. As in, don't fully reveal your monster until the very end. Because once you do, it's always downhill from there. That's why, if only possible, you should always hold off until Act 3. Once you enter Act 3, you show your monster, you have your final battle, and then you wrap up. Or you can even do it like Blair Witch and It Comes at Night, where the monster is never shown at all, to the point where it's ambiguous whether or not there even was a real monster to begin with. Obviously, this thought process doesn't work in every movie, just like it wouldn't have worked in A Quiet Place. Here you have the hearing aspect, which you kinda have to establish. I don't think it's still necessary to show the monster in full, but I understand it. Just please, for the love of God, don't show the monster at the very freaking start. And definitely not in daylight. Because no matter how scary and effective you believe your monster is, I guarantee you, it's not nearly as effective as fear of the unknown. Just trust me on this, okay? I make online videos about movies, so obviously I know a lot about making actual movies.
What is up, Trouble Alert Nation? I'm your host, Killer Keemstar. Let's get rolling. Why am I still getting...
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Gloria Morgan.
Alright guys, there you have some of my thoughts on A Quiet Place. I heard this movie did make bank at the box office, so obviously they're already working on a sequel. So what do you think? Did you find this movie scary, and what do you figure happens in the next one? Let me know. Thanks for watching.